understand why we are not playing any games. This is not a question of someone saying naughty words and you felt insulted. This was an innocent man who asked for speech and debate, who was moderate politically. And it's funny when these liberals are like, this is moderate, and they show him saying things like no abortion should be allowed. And I'm like, have you met a Christian ever in your life? That's the middle of the road Christian position. There are some Christians who are like, we should like have prison and jail for people who get abortions, like even the women. And Charlie was a moderate on this issue. And he was murdered in cold blood by a lunatic. And it sounds like, with the FBI currently investigating some of these terror groups, these Antifa cells, that there may be more people involved. We don't know. It's been reported that he was a lone shooter. The messages seem to convey that, but nobody really believes those messages, and we don't know exactly. But it was reported earlier today that I believe they did bring in, I got to fact check this one, but this was relayed to me by some, I'll just call it security and law enforcement professionals, that they have brought in individuals associated with the Discord for questioning, and I'll fact check that one. So Jimmy Kimmel coming out and saying the shooter was MAGA, when you have stories like this and the severity of what we're dealing with, is one of the most insane and dangerous things you could possibly do. And I will stress, I don't want to see people lose their jobs for having bad opinions, but I will also stress, Jimmy Kimmel being able to go onto his show to several million people and lie to them about the state of politics in this country is driving the political violence. And that's just it. So when the network says you insulted a man grieving his friend, you claimed and lied. Now think about what that does to ABC when they have to issue a retraction because it was false, egregiously false. They don't want to do that either. They're going to be facing some suits, who knows what. So they said, that's it, we're done. Not to mention his show is probably losing money. But I hope people, I apologize for people who maybe didn't want to hear that story, but I think it's very, very important everybody did.
Well, to your point about violence and what's going on, what Kimmel was trying to do there is what the media did in the 70s with the Weathermen, with the family, particularly with the Black Liberation Army, where you have these leftist, Marxist radicals who are murdering dozens of people, planting bombs, blowing up buildings, and the media is claiming either it's not happening or we don't know what their motives are. We don't know if they're an organized group, which is, of course, what they've said about Antifa as well. Mm-hmm. And it's this attempt to cover up this leftist insurgency, a proto-guerrilla movement that's happening inside America and is extremely dangerous and violent. And the Weathermen were never dealt with. Chesa Boudin, who was one of the top people in the Wren Collective and really helped Soros push this soft-on-crime policy all over America. He's the son of Kathy Boudin, who helped murder someone during an armed car robbery and never really faced justice for it other than some time in prison. Similarly, Obama's mentors, Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn, Weathermen never faced jail for bombings. They think they can get away with it this time, like they got away with it for a decade in the 70s, and that can't be allowed to happen. So I think Kimmel's firing is very important on that front.
Let's take a listen to, we got this from Mediaite. America is a less free place. Brian Stelter aghast at ABC's chilling decision to suspend Jimmy Kimmel. They don't learn their lesson. Listen to this.
Truly dropped as, I think, a shock to anybody who heard it, even if they knew that Brendan Carr, the pro-Trump chief of the FCC, had made the comments he made on that podcast. I don't think there's anybody who literally thought within hours Jimmy Kimmel would be gone.
Right, absolutely right. In fact, this was very sudden this afternoon after Carr spoke out on that far-right podcast. Then some stations that are
far-right podcast. Benny Johnson, again, moderate conservative.
Owned by other companies, but affiliated with ABC, started to complain to ABC. We know one of them, Nexstar, which has about 24 stations with the ABC logo and all the ABC programming. Nexstar publicly announced that they were going to drop Kimmel's show indefinitely. Within a matter of minutes, we heard from Disney that the show was being pulled altogether. That suggests to me that other station owners were probably also getting scared. Other station owners were probably also coming up with backup plans not to air Kimmel's show.
Yep.
But even though we're talking about comedy, this is so serious.
Comedy.
America is a less free place if late night comedians cannot do and say what they want.
I want to just stress, and let's take a pause real quick and we can issue some commentary on this. We all know what Jimmy Kimmel did. He lied about the motivations of the shooter, which creates a shield for the shooter. When the liberals come out and say he was actually a conservative or from a conservative background and the bolts never were engraved with anything and he wasn't this, and what they are doing when they lie about the shooter, when they lie about Charlie and issue fake quotes, They're effectively saying to the liberal who watches CNN or Kimmel, who is scared that the values that they've supported have led to a death, they're telling you, no, don't be upset over this. Charlie was a very, very bad man. And don't worry, the shooter was actually a Trump supporter. Keep on doing what you're doing, which resulted in this shooting. That's why it needs to stop.
Yeah, well, and to Will's point, they're just completely flabbergasted that they're actually in an environment where you can get held accountable for this kind of stuff. Because the way like Brian's presenting it is like that the right's like settling scores right now. Like that's the way he's presenting it, and that's just not at all what's happening. Because we saw like Frank's video, we understand the magnitude of what happened on Wednesday. They don't. They think that this is just some flippant thing that we're freaking out over. And so it's like, yeah, they're just so confused that they can actually be held accountable for this, nonsense that they're spewing.
Well, and on the point of being held accountable, free speech, as Tim was saying earlier, is really, it's not a law, it's a culture. And as a culture, it's a set of duties and responsibilities. So if you have one side that's advocating for terrorism against the other side and celebrating murder, of course the other side's not going to find that okay. You're no longer part of that culture because you've intentionally distanced yourself from it for temporary political advantage or to support something far more awful than that, which is what they're now doing.
Yeah.
If you look at what it looks like when you look at all the people that were treating this situation the way they were, the people that were saying awful things about Charlie, the people that were celebrating his death, there was people who were talking about the Gen Z aspect of it, the young people on TikTok who were doing so. But then you have the group of the aging boomers and the Gen Xers who do still find this type of television relevant, who find this lie very easy to swallow because it reaffirms their worldview and it absolves them of any guilt that they may feel. And you can't change the culture and you can't find people a way to a better understanding of one another if you can't even trust either group to be honest with one another about what's going on.
All you have to do is listen to what the pundits were saying and you know where they stand, right? So Aaron Burnett said, I think it's Aaron Burnett, right? Said Trump-aligned FCC. You never heard anyone say Obama-aligned FCC.
To be fair, you do hear people say Obama appointed judges.
Obama appointee, but for the most part, the only time that's mentioned is if it's in the context of something that is actually partisan. This isn't partisan. Jimmy Kimmel said something terrible about a dude that was murdered, and then the same thing with Brian Seltzer. He was like, he calls Benny Johnson far right. Anyone that doesn't, that's to the right of the bulwark, which is essentially center left now, is considered far right. It's ridiculous.
They never give you an example of what the appropriate level of right is.
Well, because
there is no appropriate level of right.
And this is where it broke down for them. Because Charlie Kirk was middle of the road conservative, like moderate conservative. He was almost he's just a conservative. There's nothing, and he holds traditional religious opinions. So what the memes started coming out was when they claimed it was the further right that killed him, even though he was already the far right. There were memes of people on the left. You go to Threads. And they're saying, you mean there's a further right group worse than Charlie Kirk? And everyone's like, is this a joke?
Yeah.
And it's because that's the world they live in, watching garbage like CNN. Now, and I'll just say this. It is Colin Wright's meme personified. The right hasn't really moved. And the left has gone so far off the deep end.
Yeah.
Centrists are now right-wing to these people. Benny Johnson is far right.
Yeah, I mean, if you were a Bible-believing Christian 30 years ago and you're a Bible-believing Christian today, you're essentially the same guy.
No. They've moderated. Charlie Kirk said gay people should be welcome in his movement.
Yeah.
Like, this is
But for the most part, I mean, like, there were always Christians that said, look, you hate the sin, not the sinner. So you don't hate gay people. You hate their lifestyle, or you hate that they're sodomites or whatever you want to call them. But the fact of the matter is there were always people that were like, look, we can be around them, we can talk to them, we can treat them as we can be friendly with them. We can treat them. You want to be polite. You want to be nice because you want them to feel like they can come out of the lifestyle that they're in and come to Christ, right? That was the argument.
And I agree. However, the mainstream position, even 15 plus years ago, from the conservatives was, we won't accept gay marriage. And many people who are middle of the road, moderate, or default libs switched to Trump when the choice was Hillary or Trump because Trump was actually more socially liberal. Trump unfurled a pride flag on stage at the RNC, and a lot of middle of the road people were like, I can vote for that now. Trump created a big tent party where moderate ignorant and disaffected liberals said, Hillary's nuts, Trump's the right answer. Charlie Kirk famously argued with people saying that gay people should be welcome in their movement. And there's one video that's got millions of views where he tells a young gay man, I don't judge you, and you shouldn't judge yourself and introduce yourself based on the actions, what you do in private. It should be about, are you a good person, and will you come to Christ? Will you be a better person? That is a more socially liberal position than in the past. And they called Charlie a homophobic bigot far right. If he's far right, imagine what Republicans were 10 years ago. Now they're pretending like they don't get it. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.